So, Siriusxm NFL Radio. We're actually at 105,000 followers on Twitter. Shout out to him for that. But he talked about the situation with T. Higgins and why the situation and the drama with T. Higgins might be more of a positive thing than a negative thing. I know it's kind of difficult to mentally grasp that because it doesn't seem very positive, but let's just go ahead and listen to what he has to say and then kind of give my thoughts and opinions about the whole situation.
A message why he did not participate in the mandatory portion of the off-season training program, i.e. mini camp, signing it immediately when the mini camp phase is over. I think it kind of tells you what the mindset of T. Higgins is. He's sending a message. I'm going to be there for training camp. Because by signing the franchise tag, obviously he could be fined for not being there. That doesn't seem to be a concern here. Signing it immediately when the mini camp portion of the off-season training program was over, it really does, I think, set the table that he's aligned with many of his teammates. You also heard Trey Hendrickson, who also, requested a trade and wanted a new contract, but said, hey, look, we can win a Super Bowl. You get the sense that the Cincinnati Bengals as a team, I know I'm talking about the players, they seem all in. And they seem all in not to allow anything to distract them, knowing that they have a chance to win a Super Bowl. We've got 32 teams in this league. Not all 32 teams seem to have a mindset or the optimism that, yeah, we could be one of those teams. But this team seems to think that they're one of them, despite playing in the same conference with the team that's a two-time back-to-back NFL champion.
All right, so let's talk about this. First off, he's not wrong. There's a lot of teams. Well, I mean, listen, okay? I feel like there's a situation that teams had to put themselves in going into the season. Are they a rebuild team or are they a relaunch team? Or are they a future team? And there's three different segments and you can't kind of confuse the three. One's a relaunch team, which means, hey, listen, we are a Super Bowl team. We added one more piece. We added the final piece of the puzzle, and now we are a Super Bowl team. I think that's where we are at right now with adding Chris Jenkins, with adding Sheldon Rankins, with adding Trent Brown and Mike Gesicki and Jermaine Burton, and adding all these pieces that really just finish up our roster. And then there's rebuild teams, the Denver Broncos, who, last year Russell Wilson didn't work out. They get rid of Russell Wilson. They go get Bo Nix. They get Zach Wilson. And they're kind of in that rebuild scenario, right? And then you have the mid team, which is, again, the Arizona Cardinals, who are like, listen, we're just going to kind of figure out what's going on here. We're hoping things go out right, but, it might not, right? So I think you're in three different areas, right? And as long as you're in the first area, yeah, you're going to have that mentality of, we're going to go win the Super Bowl. The thing is, right, this team knows, and they're a very smart team, they know how last season went. We went 9-8 with a crippled Joe Burrow the first 4 weeks. He comes back. He goes out again. We have a guy who never played football ever before in the NFL in Jake Browning, who comes in, and we end up the season 9-8 with the toughest schedule possible. And every area that we have had problems with, we've had issues with, we fix this offseason. It doesn't take a rocket science to realize if we could do what we did last season with a makeshift roster, with Cam Taylor-Britt being out for a little bit of the season, obviously DJ Reader going down, our offensive line sucked. It doesn't take rocket science to see that, yeah, this is a team that could easily go win the Super Bowl. And we have a period of time right now where, realistically speaking, I know he does bring up the two-Peter Kansas City Chiefs here. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs barely made the playoffs last year. They barely squeaked themselves in. They did it, and in the end, they went ahead and won the Super Bowl, right? And shout out to them for that, but that just goes to show how easy in right now the NFL is. The AFC, Chiefs obviously, I guess, are the best team. But roster-wise, they're not the best team. They obviously have Patrick Mahomes, but outside of Patrick Mahomes, you look at their roster, their defense is really good. But their offense, it's not really that scary. It really isn't. Then you look at the second team. Who was the second team in the AFC? The Buffalo Bills? They're not scary at all. They're not scary at all. Then you got the Texans. They're the scariest team, I feel like, outside the Chiefs. But even then, I feel like they're definitely beatable. You know, you have a young quarterback, time to develop, you know. But I think overall-wise, they are a very beatable team. And then you just go down the list here of other teams, and you kind of start to realize, okay, Miami Dolphins, but when they get to the playoffs, they kind of choke in December in the playoffs. Okay, but the Baltimore Ravens, they're also a dangerous team. I don't know. You know, so it kind of goes down the list here of, yeah, we could go to the Super Bowl through the AFC. And then you look at the NFC, right? Because the AFC is the toughest conference in football. I don't care what anyone says. We are the toughest conference in football. And all those things I just listed, then you look at the NFC and you're like, oh, whoa. That's not as tough. And it's not. It really is not as tough as the AFC. The NFC is a very interesting division. I mean, interesting conference. You got the Philadelphia Eagles, who would lead the charge, but then last season fell apart in the second half of the season. Then you have the San Francisco 49ers, who look to be the best team, but look what they did to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They fell apart as well. And I mean, who else are you really gonna? I mean, the Lions, but then the Lions, you know, there's always a chance something goes wrong there. There's no one else. Like, there's no one that's dominant in the NFC right now. The Cowboys, they choke in the playoffs. So, like, there's no dominant team in the NFC that you're looking at and you go, wow, I don't want to play the NFC team. And maybe in the future that would change, right? Maybe in the future different guys get drafted and maybe Caleb Williams ends up becoming the Messiah for the Bears, right? Maybe all these things go in that direction and everything figures out. But right now, when you break it down right now at this moment in time, if you're the Bengals, who are you scared of? The Ravens? Lamar Jackson's playoff record does not look too well. The Brownies, you're not scared of them in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, all you're scared of is what the playoffs are going to show you. And what the playoffs are going to show you is 6 other teams. And you know the Chiefs are going to make it. You beat them before in the playoffs. The Bills, you beat them before in the playoffs. The Texans, that's the tough team. That's the X factor, I would say. But outside of that, you're not scared of the Jags. You're not scared of the Colts. You're not scared of the Titans. Right? There's no one else. And if that's the case, as he said, and he is absolutely correct, you have to have this mindset. If you're the Bengals right now, you have this mindset of, who is going to be the team that stops us? And in the past, you had like the Patriots were dominant. You know, you had time periods where, again, I feel like the Chiefs were a little bit better like a couple of years ago than they are nowadays. But you had all these teams that were so good, and you said to yourself, okay, those are the teams that I don't know if we can beat. There isn't that team nowadays. So that mentality of, hey, listen, we could go do it. We could go get the job done. I feel like it's more than ever. It's that mentality of, listen, this is our chance because this is the best chance to go win the Super Bowl. I could list off a random team next year and say they went and won the Super Bowl, and I guarantee you it would not sound ridiculously crazy to say. And that feels like it's never been like that before in history. It's always been like, okay, well, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Well, the Patriots. For 15 years, it was always, well, you got to get through the Patriots. You got to get through the Chiefs. You got to get through this team or that team. Or, you know, the Seahawks were dominant at one point. That's not the case anymore. I'm not scared of any other 31 teams in the NFL. And I don't care about the fact that, well, we suck against the Ravens or the Browns or Steelers in the regular season. I don't care. Because all that matters is playoff football. Okay, that's all that matters at the end of the day is when you get to the playoffs and you play in the playoffs. And in the playoffs, this team is unstoppable. I mean, we got one Patrick Mahomes, last drive away from being a two-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, two-time Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. Sorry, not champion. Appearances. Like, this is... And then Joe obviously has a freak incident last year. Which, honestly, I think we could have made it back to the Super Bowl last year. The T. Higgins situation is definitely wild. Right? But I think, again, as he says, and it's so true, Trey said it best. This is a Super Bowl team. And excuse my French here, but we can't sit here and dick around. We can't. We got to go out there and play our best football and get ready. Who they? Who they think gonna beat them Bengals? Who they think gonna beat them Bengals? Nobody.